For the first 20 years of my adulthood, I worked in design and construction. In the beginning, we all wore a similar uniform, a sport coat with suspenders and a bow tie. Over time, the suspender fad faded, ties disappeared, and OSHA-compliant work boots became the norm. But dressing the part for me was a way of saying, I deserve to be here. Years later, I was a budding minister working in San Francisco's Tenderloin district, and that meant looking like everyone else, with jeans, t-shirt, and sneakers. It was like saying to people in the streets, I see you, I value you, I'm with you. And I meant it. During the shift between those two very different worlds, I worked as an intern minister in a middle-class beachfront community in Los Angeles. The men in that congregation all wore luau shirts every Sunday, and each week somebody would try to pressure me into doing the same. But I always showed up in a pressed shirt with a jacket and tie, hoping to demonstrate that even though I was just a student minister, I took the job seriously, that I respected them and the work. Now that we're working from home just about every day and we appear to most people most of those days in one little square of a Zoom video grid, what we wear doesn't matter much as long as we're presentable. But I get up every day and get dressed as if I'm going somewhere important, because I still value the work and because the people I journey with have dignity and are worthy of my respect. I want you all to know I care. But there's something else. Dressing up every day is a routine I can hold on to when most routines have disappeared. It's a tangible reminder that even though so much is out of my control, there are some things I can control. I have a friend who always looks great, but on some days she looks like a model. Once I asked her why she would dress spectacularly on ordinary days. She did it, she said, when she felt awful and needed to dress up to show to herself and the world that circumstances wouldn't beat her down. I understood her then, but now I know it for myself. In the sadness of all this isolation, especially when I don't feel like bothering, getting dressed builds me up emotionally. In a funny way, bow ties and sport coats are helping me survive. They've become less external expressions and more internal affirmations. Now, don't get me wrong, I totally appreciate why people will go to a Zoom meeting pantless. If attiring yourself for the expectations of others in order to meet some homogeneous standard has felt like a soul-stripping chore, I can see how wearing the same sweats for 10 days in a row is liberating. It's a way of saying, take me as I am for who I am and not what I wear. But man, oh man, I need to dress up. After all this is done, none of us are going to look at clothing choices the same. My hope is that I remember the good that can come from a simple routine, and that we're all able to continue to make the choices that best suit us. Choices that best help us thrive when things get tough.
Has 2020 taught me anything? Mostly, this year has reminded me of how unpredictable life can be. Despite living through many changes over the years, from family and friends moving away or dying, to changes in jobs, health, residence, this year's dramatic reshaping of both everyday life and our government has reminded me again that there really are no certainties. And yet, I'm spoiled in so many ways. This year, I am lucky. Lucky that I retired from teaching long before this pandemic struck. That I can choose to generally stay at home and not put myself at risk. That I am not alone and can share this experience with Ron. That I have been able to safely continue my monthly IVIG treatments. And that so far, our retirement income has not been damaged by the economic problems. But this year has also made me appreciate human connection more than usual. For quite a while, I relished the quiet time at home, not really missing constant activity and being with groups of people. As an introvert, I have rarely craved large gatherings. However, over time, I felt myself becoming more subdued and lethargic. I thought that this was mostly due to my struggles with everyday activities caused by my multifocal motor neuropathy. But recently, after some long phone conversations with friends and relatives, I felt myself perking up, and I realized that I must be missing being with people more than I knew. This year has also made me acutely aware of my need for help. If not for the pandemic, I likely would have hired a cleaning person to periodically do some of the heavier household chores. As it is, I do ask Ron for help, but I also push myself to do what I can, never feeling as if I accomplish enough. I have often wondered if I will ever be fully active again, if and when this pandemic life is over. It remains to be seen whether or not I will be able to keep up with a more demanding schedule, including regular physical exercise, attending choral rehearsals and performances, attending and hosting social events, and participating in in-person meetings as I did before. I guess it will be all about searching for balance, one day at a time. And that is a lesson to be learned over and over again.
Good times and bum times, we've seen them all, and my dears, we're still here. Plush velvet sometimes, sometimes just pretzels and beer, but we're here. We've seen the lightning strike our yard, dealt with the critters, that was hard. In-person greetings disappear, but we're here. Zoom talks and email, Facebook and YouTube is all that we've have. Lost our connections, dealt with the static, but hey, we're still here. We've shopped with masks on, with the best, put smart distancing to the test. In this pandemic, were we depressed? Nowhere near. We're meeting the challenge, and we're here. We've been through voting, politics unceasingly near, and we're here. Delivery boxes, gray roots and lengthening hair, and we're here. We go through cooking, all from scratch, or waiting for the takeout to dispatch, longing to gather and end all this drear. We've lived through endless reruns, but we're here. We've gotten through power outs and post office slowdowns. Gee, that was fun and a half. When you go through power outs and post office slowdowns, anything else is a laugh. Good times and bum times, we've seen them all, and my dears, we're still here. Plush velvet sometimes, sometimes just pretzels and beer. But we're here. We've run the gamut, A to Z. 3 cheers and darn it, c'est la vie. We got through all of this year, and we're here. We're still here.
It's 2020 again. That must mean we're on YouTube again, waiting for the next part of our worship experience. Either Joys and Cares or the slideshow, the Bond of Union, the virtual coffee hour, watching the first part of the service after the second part of the service. At first, when COVID-19 hit, I was terrified. I cocooned. I stopped all interactions and I slept. I slept so much that for the first time in 30 years, I'm not tired anymore. I get up in the morning. It's big. Then when we were released from COVID lockdown, I finished the projects that I had interrupted when I cocooned. And I started organizing my life, just in case I got COVID and died. I wore my good underwear, just in case I got COVID and died. I dressed each morning in office clothes, so if I got COVID and I ended up in the hospital, they wouldn't catch me in my jammies. I started throwing stuff out so that if I died, my son wouldn't accuse me of being a hoarder. Once things were kind of in order and organized, I started sitting outside early in the morning with my coffee, and I listened to the birds, and I watched the squirrels. I didn't take my phone with me, and I accidentally started organizing my thoughts. One thing I thought was that I needed internet at home, so I got it for the first time. So now I can work from home. I save wear and tear on my car and gas money, and I have much less exposure to the virus. I can still work from home. I can still, as long as I have the internet, I can still make appointments and keep appointments. I just meet fewer people. When I first came to East Shore, I met Cecilia Urbanski, who was a longtime member. Shortly after I joined East Shore, Cecilia was diagnosed with a progressive fatal disease. She was a registered nurse, so she knew what was coming. She immediately curtailed her office hours. She organized her house while she was able-bodied so that it would be easier for her to navigate when she needed help. She took all the important family documents and made 3 notebooks with all the photographs and important papers for each of her 3 children. She preemptively made her life easier. I was so in awe of her, and I thought that was a really brave but sensible thing to do. And I tried to emulate Cecilia over the years, but it wasn't imperative until this year. Now more than ever, I've been trying to look ahead. I think about what I will need and I get it started. I have hand grips in my new shower. Don't need them yet, but I will. I've been much more realistic, and honestly, I've taken to being what I think is probably my real self. Not quite as pleasant, but gets things done better because I stopped putting up with other people's nonsense. It's hard to do when you're working, but it works eventually. I guess my lesson from 2020 is look straight into the future, look it in the eye, and walk straight out into it.
Well, it's 2020. Again. That must mean we're here on YouTube waiting for our part in the service to show up. And then being a little disappointed when it turns out to just be that couple of seconds or minutes on screen. Find yourself wondering, was that it? Was that all I had to give? Today? This week? This month? I found myself feeling that way a lot this year. Was that it? Was that really all I had to give? It makes sense. I mean, this year, we can't really be near each other. Can't really see each other. Can't give gifts the way that we would like to around this season. We can't eat food together the way we would like to around those holidays that warrant it. We can't give and be a part of each other's lives in the way that we would like to. And so often I found myself wondering, is that it? Have I really done enough? Have I really given enough? And you know what? I think what I've learned is that I have. I have given enough. Because this year, all the gifts that I have to give have to come from the heart. It has to be me here in front of whatever wall in my apartment is available, saying, singing, doing whatever it is I have available. And the same is true for you. In front of whatever wall you have available, you take video, take pictures, send in old ones, use words gained from reading and listening and just coming up with things on your own. I think one of the big things I've learned this year is that the smaller gifts, the ones that really come from the heart, those are the important ones. Those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that are last. And as much as this year sucked, I think I've learned to be grateful for the little gifts that I can give. Whether it's here, or at work, or in my personal connections outside of whatever. The gifts that come from the heart are the ones that matter. The little things. The things you can do when you can't do anything else. This is it. This is all I have to give right now. It has to be enough. And so it is. Everything we're giving, even though we'd like to do more. This is enough.
It's 2020 again. That must mean we're on YouTube and everyone's waiting for us to write it and tape it and edit it and load it up yet again. But you know what? We're still here doing it. We're still here writing and videoing and editing and loading because we think it's worth it. We think you're worth it. We think the messages still need to be said. Ways for us to reach out to one another should still be done. And I'll be damned if this 2020 is gonna knock us out. I'll be damned. You know? It's been hard sometimes getting it done. It's been hard sometimes juggling that and school and doing my job as an RE and keeping my family from going insane. But again, it's worth it. It's life. It's not a lot, but it's life. So we're still here. We'll still be here. We will continue to be here. And we will continue to write and videotape and edit and load and reach out to all of you to know that you are important. And hopefully, one day soon, the only thing we'll have to do is write it. And then we can read it to you out loud in person. So Happy New Year, everybody. Blessed be.
Whether it be snowstorms like this, or lightning strikes, or little critters like groundhogs and gophers, the reason that we'll have a building and a community to go back to, the reason that we'll still be here as East Shore together when the time comes, is because of you. Because of the effort you put in, because you show up, and because you send in your pledge checks each month to keep us financially in the green. Thank you for everything you do for East Shore. And thank you for everything you do for our community partners. Whether you're a member and friend of East Shore, or if you're just stumbling upon us for the first time today, we'd like to invite you to send a little something extra into our office this month to help us help our community partners out in Ashtabula County at Home Safe, a domestic violence shelter. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay warm.
All of a sudden, you changed my mind. Pull back the curtain, a little at a time. You were on a frequency, the perfect opposite of me. Though I never needed any proof to trust the heart that beats inside of you. Only one thing really matters. We're still here. We're still here. We're against all odds. We're still here. We're still here. There's a color deep within your eyes, a history only you and I could write. There's pigment in your memory, the origins of our family tree. Though I never needed any proof to know the heart that beats inside of you. Only one thing really matters. still here. We're still here. Through the static, through the ashes, we were brave. Through the perils of endless narrow escapes, we're still here. 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 We're still here.
It's 2020 again, and we've all experienced it differently. For some of us, we see that we're still here and we wonder why us and not someone else. For some of us, we see that we're still here and we wonder, how are we getting through the day? What are the things that keep us going? What are the things we're missing that would allow us to keep going? For some of us, we think about the fact that we're still here and we wonder what we can do to make it so that we're in a better place some point in the future. We imagine 2021 coming, and with the drop of that many-sided glass ball, suddenly everything's okay. The magic of a vaccine taking away the disease that has ravaged this entire planet. We all look at still being here in different ways. The ways that we've had to survive, the things that we've experienced, the struggle we've had. We've all had something to learn from this, and maybe some of us have, maybe some of us have not learned it yet. But as a whole, we, as humans, have been here before. Some of us personally, some of us just as a part of the interconnected web of all existence, of which we are a part. For some of us, it's just that we share the DNA of our ancestors who have been here before. There's so many examples of times where things like this have happened. And it was a struggle, but we made it through. It's helpful to look at art to see it. In 1893 through 1895, Italian composer Giacomo Puccini composed an opera in 4 acts called La Bohème. It told the story of a bunch of poor artists in the city of Paris, struggling to survive through poverty, other struggles, namely a disease, tuberculosis, in the opera. Many of the characters don't make it. Some of them are guilty of the feeling that they did. Others are too focused on the other things that they have going on to even worry about that part of it. History repeats itself. And nobody saw that better than Jonathan Larson. So, as he watched his friends struggling and dying around him during the AIDS crisis, he decided to adapt La Bohème into the musical that he wrote, Rent. Rodolfo became Roger, Marcelo became Mark. Mimi, well, Mimi's just Mimi. And the bohemian lifestyle became La Vie Bohème. The lyric opera became a rock opera. Everything was different because it was a different time, and yet everything was the same. Instead of tuberculosis, it was AIDS. Poverty for one reason became poverty because of rent and gentrification. Any other struggles that existed in the early 1800s became issues of sexual orientation and gender identity and whatever else they might have been dealing with in the 90s. It was different, experienced differently by the individuals, but it was the same. And now here we are. It's 2020. Again. For over 300 days, over 500,000 minutes, it's been 2020. And we've got some of the same themes. COVID-19 instead of AIDS or tuberculosis. Poverty, racial inequality and inequity. Issues of sexual orientation and gender identity. Some of it's the same, some of it's different. We all experience it differently, but we've been here before. Personally, for some of us, as a species, for all of us. It may be some small or no comfort at all, but we've been here before. And we're still here. Not all of us. But those of us that are had a lesson to learn. We've thought about it and we know what ours is, whether we've learned it yet or not. So hopefully we can all take from this year some comfort in the idea that we're still here. And there was something we could learn from this. Something that we did learn from this. So that the next time this comes around, whether it be a disease, whether it be poverty, inequity, or whatever else comes our way, we can join together as a part of this web of all existence and do just a little bit more. Do a lot more about it. I'd like to leave you this morning with some words that Jonathan Larson left for the New York Theater Workshop where Rent premiered. In these dangerous times, where it seems the world is ripping apart at the seams, we can all learn how to survive from those who stare death squarely in the face every day. And we should reach out to each other and bond as a community, rather than hide from the terrors of life.
We join hands in Unitarian Universalist fellowship, pledging ourselves to an individual religious freedom which transcends all creeds, not to think alike, but to journey together.
Still here, huh? Well, I'll be honest with you. I can't leave until you're done here. So if you want to go to coffee hour, the link was sent out this morning, or I don't know, maybe you're watching this on Wednesday morning. You can go to work. Or maybe you're watching this in 2022. Are you watching this in 2022? I don't want to stand down here until 2022. I changed my mind. You do what you want. I'm leaving. Bye.